good conversations and catching up with their families. Since she'll be retiring, and I'm secretary at the high school, lead secretary there, and Terry's been key as our lead person and the face that you enter and see and meet when you enter our high school doors. So that's going to be different when she's not there, because she's that smiling. She's going to be greatly missed. Again, Terry's another one that I've got to know. I was able to teach her son, and both in elementary and in high school. So I've known Terry for quite a few years, and be sad to see her as she moves on to retirement. But congratulations to all of these retirees. My guess is we may come back. We could have a few more retirees with the retirement incentives out. So, but this is where we have today. She can post a picture of this. She can present this. But just want to congratulate our valedictorians, Abigail Jason and Alila Molnar. I believe that both of these students are 4-point students at Tri-County. They've worked exceptionally hard, to within their asses. And we look for great things coming from both Abigail and Alila. I look forward to hearing graduation. And then also want to congratulate our salutatorians, Allison Myers and Brady Stein. Allison and Brady, again, were very involved with college classes. I think both were over a 3.9 GPA. Brady, I believe, had the highest SAT score. I want to give a big shout out to Brady. I believe that I just heard this last week that he received quite a good scholarship from Ferris State University to attend there. And then also just for a young man, he has shouldered a lot, but also my heart goes out. He's matured as before his time in tough circumstances. So wanted to celebrate those valedictorians and salutatorians August 2nd to the celebrating us. We did hear back from parents about graduation, and we have, and hearing back from our parents have asked that they'd like to do a graduation together on August 2nd as we continue to stay the state reopen. That seems more like it's going to be a viable option. So, and we hope that with the case of that, the Board of Education then can also hand out those diplomas if the state permits. So, but great work by these staff members and great work by these students, and we salute them. So great job, everybody.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to everyone retiring and our graduates and themselves. Just incredible accomplishments. We will begin our presentation section of the agenda with a budget update from Mrs. Coffin.
You're muted, Kathy.
Thought I had it. Sorry. Anyway, so because of the volatility of the budgets right now, the state budget, and what's all going on with the school aid fund, Al and I decided that we should probably just do an update for the full board as to where we're at currently in this year's budget and for next year's budget. And so as we're going to be $1.2 billion short this fiscal year, which ends in a couple of weeks for us. And so that equates to approximately $650 to $700. So we have determined to go with the $700 proration on this year because, as the board knows, we don't want to go backwards, or we want to go up, not down. So we went very conservatively because at some point, unless we get some federal funds that help out, that some did for this year, but going into next year, we'll talk more about that. So as you can see, when I brought the budget to you in May, just a month ago, we were at use fund balance of about $73,615. And things were looking pretty good. And then we found out about they were probably going to do a proration this year. So we won't know that proration until probably July or August is what we're hearing. So that's a little unnerving, but that's the world we're living in right now. So we just got to handle it. So at this point, we've got revenue down by $846,958, and we have expenditures down by $332,838. So that's a use of $587,000 of fund balance in this fiscal year. That would put us at about 10.58% fund balance. And as we know, we still got a little more narrowing to do as we finalize this year and we go through audit. For proration, you can see it's about a $1.3 million. To think that we're at 587 is a little bit better feeling. Part of the TCAS Act we are using in this year, and that is offsetting general funds teacher salaries that we're doing the online learning and that sort of thing. And as you know from prior board meetings, we are using 60 for the Chromebooks to ensure that we have one-on-one for all students if needed. And if we have to do 5, they'll have one-to-one in the classroom, and 6-12, they'll have one-to-one initiative started. Expenses were taken down as far as I feel comfortable, probably further than I've in the past at this point, because of, the fact that we've been closed and we could close out certain areas. I failed to mention in the finance committee, so those members, I apologize for that, but the compensated absence and retirement incentive, I budgeted it at $100,000, and I think that should cover it. So that's already in here, so that's a good thing. That will obviously incentives and light. So we'll just have to monitor that. The 2021 technology purchase, including some necessary software that we have to run the school budget to offset next year's budget. We are, as many people have seen our fields around a couple of weeks, down, and we had 2 of them that were down. Now we're back to 2, but they're trying to play catch up. And so we do have on the agenda, I believe, tonight for the mower to be purchased. And part of that is going to be paid for out of the Fund 41 capital project account, which is that leftover logging revenue that we, and also the GRBS, we will be offsetting that. It has come down the cost due to the smaller workforce that we've had. Transportation is at least $200,000 going to food service for the emergency food program, and also the fuel is then purchased to the emergency food program. And excuse me, I've taken the remaining bus expense line that we always do every year to go into capital projects towards the busing dollars. If you recall, we used $30,000 of that for the loader earlier in this year. 12,000 going over. Shared time expenses, I've closed those out. Those salaries have been paid out. So questions on this budget, on the 19-20 budget. Okay. So we go into 2021. We do believe it's going to be another $700 shortfall, and we're looking at, instead of an $8,111 per pupil foundation, we're looking at $7,411. That means that that brings us to about $1.597 million shortfall in revenues. The expenditures, we've made quite a few reductions that that is $1.143 million that we have already reduced. I must commend all the groups that have worked really hard over the last few short timelines to be able to come up with these reductions. It's not fun, it's stressful, and I can't say much more than that, but at this point, it does bring our fund balance to 5.66% at the end of next fiscal year. This, so the budget factors here, you've got $700 per pupil proration, deferred revenue that was left from prior year. We have all the Title Medicaid to the beginning levels. We also have retirement at 28.224%. So that's up almost a full point. We've got staff reductions in. We are still working on the para staffing. We've got supply down $130,000 because a lot of it has been purchased in 1920, and we've been working so that he's very aware of all of this, and he knows we're making sure he's getting the supports he needs to have. Utilities are to the beginning levels, and we reduced the maintenance lines by about $25,000. We have a we're supposed to be entering into a new dean contract this year. Basically, our normal transportation costs and increase them by 4% because it's about what an annual increase is. It's a little on the conservative side, and down one run. Obviously, we're in negotiations with Dean. They're working with us. We're working with them. We don't know what's going to happen with transportation, or if we even have it. We can't go any further than that, but we have to plan accordingly, and so that's what we are doing. And of course, the Michigan State Police Safety Grant that we had in the budget last year, or in 1920, and this year is out on this fiscal year. So, are there any questions on the 2021 budget update? Okay, then we will be bringing you the actual budget amendments, like any more discussions or things, and then we'll have the budget hearing on June 29. That gives us time as a full board to be able to, call me, email me with anything that, hey, did you, what about this? What about that? Feel free to ask me at any time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Coffin. We will turn it over to Superintendent Cummings to talk to us about the upcoming school year and staffing. If you can unmute, please.
Thank you. Yeah, with staffing, I want to say what Kathy said there, and that's, first of all, appreciate working with our groups on this, as well as our admin put a lot of work into this, first and foremost. And we've been able to make some changes in some of our scheduling, yet keep our core classes, intact and at good levels, as well as keep, the extension learning class or whole child learning, PE specials, things like that we've been able to keep those. And that's something that's always been important to have those options. In fact, possibly even increase some of those options in a time of reduction. With that said, we are still concerned about enrollment and what that may look like. I do not have people designated within the staffing yet for specifically outside of a high school teacher for the virtual teacher mentor, because we got to kind of see where enrollment, that anybody who is put on layoff is on a layoff list for 3 years and maybe recalled back for 3 years. So know that that's the case, and that will be explained to them. You received an exhibit B of a list of potential people being laid off. My recommendation to the board would be to go from 110 to 97. Exhibit B that you have, I believe, goes all the way to 95. We will not be able to, we are going to need number 95 and number 96 on that list due to the fact that those people, they're needed to make our schedule work. So it would be from 1K. And I would say that even within that, there's some positions, possibly some part-time positions that we still have to fill. And as we watch the numbers come through, we'll be able to get those people placed where they're at. Part of this is we haven't had a kindergarten roundup. We haven't had kindergarten numbers come through. So our kindergartner numbers are probably a little bit lower than what we typically see right now. At the same time, we want to prepare well for the class. As mentioned, that will be looked at on the 22nd. And then as well as I need some time to work out some details with those administration reductions, as well as we will be working with some para reductions. There are some reductions and changes that will happen into secretaries and secretary hours. So I think pretty much all departments, we're seeing some changes. A lot of schools are contacting each other about how we can support each other in this time. This is a very challenging time, and appreciate, so much of the work of our board. And I see our teachers and even our staff sending letters to our legislatures asking them to not have a reduction, especially this year or next year. It'd be quite a change in the numbers that Kathy. So with that said, hopefully I'll have some sample schedules to you by the June 22nd. We are getting those in place and into Synergy, so we can kind of see where class size and numbers are. I talked to our counselors the other day. We got to balance that a little bit. One thing we have heard from parents is to try to keep some of especially the social emotional supports back. I'm seeing some of that within even some of the conversations of, as you come back, make sure some of the social emotional people are there, because that's a tough transition for some kids to go back into the setting. into the school setting. So we want to make sure that we have good support for students as we come back social and emotionally. So my recommendation, again, number 110 to number 97 would be where we land for that vote. Any questions for me?
No questions. Thank you, Superintendent Cummings. Unmuted and go right into your administrative report, please.
Yeah, so one of the big things that's happening right now is fall planning, and I think you've seen my letter to the community. I've sent out a video to the community as well, that we're kind of looking at three options, and we'd call it a true distance learning. We have a hybrid plan, which would be we're there some days and not there other days, and then there's this hopefully we're all back together. One of the hard things with this, and I got some reports today, last week, Friday, it kind of depends on where this curve lands. If something comes back for potential, whether we're in school and then out of school, there's so many moving parts. It's really hard to decipher what direction we're going to go. We don't have answers, but what we do know is we need parent feedback. So what we're working on right now with our admin team, board survey to go out to the public. We hope to have that survey finalized, I'm hoping by tomorrow, so that we can get that survey out here by the end of the week. We feel that we're getting that information back and seeing kind of where parents are on some of these concepts will help us better plan for next year. I did receive a report from another superintendent shared this with me. I'll try to get this to you as board members as well, kind of what other nations have gone through but as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, we've seen kind of this change to some of and how to respond to it and things like that. But there's some really tight parameters that we're working with. For instance, busing, one to a seat or one every other seat. Well, that's pretty tough to bus as many kids as we transport daily in that type of environment. Desks 6 feet apart, continued social distancing, staff possibly wearing masks. And outside of that, so there's a lot of planning taking place and wondering what that's going to look like. But what we want to make sure is we have good plan in place. We feel probably the most difficult one to plan for is kind of that hybrid option. And we're really trying to stay away from this kind of remote option like we did this year, where it's really more of a true, in-person, virtual distance learning type option. So we're still having to put that together. And of course, we've got the online option for students as well. So I'm not going to say we're ahead of the game, but I don't think we're definitely behind the game. But there's a lot of work being done and research being done on the direction we're going to go into the fall. Other planning for the fall, as I stated earlier, August 2nd, we will plan on graduation. I don't have a time. I think they're leaving that at 3:00. We are going to try to do that outside at the high school football field. Just if we do have to practice social distancing, it's pretty tough to prepare to be indoors or outdoors, but we are planning that to be outdoors on the high school football stadium. So we'll begin planning that way. About 75% of our senior parents responded that they would like to see that happen. So we are going to plan that way. We are going to have starting here soon. I think sharing the offices, especially our main office, open up. We are going to ask people if they do come in, if they'd wear masks, when we go face to face that way. But I'm hoping here shortly, and it may be the 1st of July, that rules that aren't necessarily there for other businesses. I don't understand that, but I also understand that it's because we work with students. Guidelines, and I get those from our county pretty consistently, so I'll try to keep you updated on that. But Sherry, I know is in the office, so again, she was able to answer the needs of a parent that was looking to join today. This has already been mentioned. I mentioned this last month, and I think we even talked about it maybe even in April. We have 3 mowers. One is running fairly well. Another one, I would say, runs. If we keep it running slow at a moderate speed, it runs well. It tends to have a little bit of overheating, so we're trying to figure out what's happening there. And then the third mower is down, that engine, and that's an older mower. I believe that's an early 2000 mower. It's been a backup mower, but it's time that we get kind of a new field mower. We were fortunate enough to have money timber cutting. Obviously, there are some savings in the account for operations this year. So I went ahead and approved that purchase of a mower for him to get that ordered, because we've got to do something. I had a teacher the other day ask me, he's like, "Why is the grass so high around the high school?" Well, we don't have a mower. So we're having to adjust a little bit there, but I think they're starting to get some things caught up. One of the things that we are going to do is purchase an X mark because of the fact that current mowers over to that. We are going to keep the the mower that has the bad engine, so that we can use that for spare parts, because there are parts to mowers. But it's one of those, things that it seems like, when things are bad, something like this hits and you're like, oh, continue to operate in more athletic fields.